How's everyone doing? Oh, okay. So I am behind. I am behind on me. Oh, really? It was because I was trying to use my backup screen capture. And, this is on me. You don't use backups. Use primaries. All right. Let me just update the stream details really quickly. And then we'll get on to it. A potato and tin foil, I think, would work as well as the commercial. Okay, we're gonna give it a test. I have switched from or from I forget their name. What is their name? Who makes this garbage? Elgato. Elgato's dead to me. I literally have forgotten their name. Just dead to me. I've switched from Elgato to AverMedia. So the new one's on AverMedia. We'll see if I have to spend $150 on a new device each year, because that's about how long. The Elgatos are just terrible, because literally I bought a new Elgato and it was dead on arrival. Literally dead on arrival. I'm actually lucky that I had this AverMedia, because I literally got it like 2 days ago. So yeah. All right. Sorry, I am late. Late. All right. But we got to keep going. We got stuff to cover. Whether my capture card. How will Elgato make money if we stop buying capture cards? I mean, literally, it's like a subscription service with them. Like Elgato makes maybe some of the cheapest, crappiest devices ever. I have gone through, like, I say this, I've gone through what, 6 of them? I haven't even streamed for 6 years. So it's more than once a year. They're just terrible. Absolutely terrible. I think we might build a streaming PC if I can save up for it. And with that, we might do like a dedicated PCI capture card and see if those are any better. Because right now I'm using the external ones. So maybe that's part of it. I'm not sure. All right, let's pause that. All righty. I think we're ready. All right. Thanks, everyone. And sorry for a late start. And sorry we're going to have to be a little bit fast because I got a late start. Today we got a lot of stuff to cover. I wanted to quickly circle back, and I told you guys I would watch the drama unfolding on the Linux kernel, and we have had a little bit of movement there. And so I wanted to touch back there because there is actually a new kernel policy that has been released. So I saw this on the mailing newsletter. So we got this. Hi all, given the discussions in the last days, I decided to publish this page with what our understanding is. Now, again, I'm still looking for Linus, but there is this in the Linux kernel policy. There's been a fair amount of confusion about what the kernel policies around Rust are, who maintains, and so on. This document tries to clarify some of those points. Like many things in the kernel, these points are not hard rules and can change over time. Basically, how is Rust introduced in a subsystem? the goal has always been to get maintainers involved progressively because the effort does not scale otherwise. Therefore, different subsystems have different approaches so far. Some systems prefer to actively drive the Rust effort themselves. Some have preferred to get a new co-maintainer or sub-maintainer to review the split workload, and some subsystems may decide they do not want to have Rust code for the time being, typically for bandwidth reasons. This is fine and expected. Oh, you're using Hyperland? I thought about trying Hyperland. I thought about trying it. We'll see. Now in the kernel maintainer subit, we ask for flexibility when the time comes that our major users of Rust in the kernel require key APIs for which the maintainers may not be able to maintain Rust abstractions for it. This is indeed the needed counterpart to the ability to maintainers decide whether they want to allow Rust or not. Do kernel maintainers support Rust in the kernel? Yes, there are key kernel maintainers that support Rust in the kernel. This is sorry. I was just the thing I really wanted to point out was this: the usual kernel policy applies. So by default, changes should not be introduced if they are known to break the build, including Rust. So this was actually a big takeaway from it that I think is actually really good, because one of the confusing things in that entire email chain was whoever, who is responsible for the breaking changes. And a lot of people wanted to say that C didn't have to worry about Rust. And this clarifies that it includes Rust. It goes on to clarify, however, exceptionally for Rust, a subsystem may allow to temporarily break Rust code. The intention is to facilitate friendly adoption of Rust in a subsystem without introducing a burden to the existing maintainers who may be working on urgent fixes for the C side. The breakage should nevertheless be fixed as soon as possible, ideally before the breakage reaches Linus. For instance, this approach has chosen by the block layer. They call it stage 1 in their Rust introduction plan. Okay. So there's a little bit of clarification there that I found mostly reasonable. Maybe not perfect, maybe not what we want it to be, but what we do have to realize is that it is a huge C project, and a lot of the maintainers are huge C people. And so there is a certain amount of, you don't want to dredge down people that you don't have to. So this is a little bit of a compromise on both sides. It does set a little bit better of an understanding of who's responsible for what. This is a good statement. And the thing is, it's going to have to mature over time as things go. As there's more Rust code, this becomes less of a reality, and this becomes more of the actual reality. That's how these types of migrations work, and it should be good. No, we didn't say that Rust wouldn't be extra work. So anyways, you guys can read the rest of it. I'm not going to bore us with those. There you go. I thought it was a cool update. I would still like to see a little bit more of Linus in this. I think that he owes it to the project as far as his expectations. Even going through this, while it's a little bit clearer, it's like, it's like, yeah, I can see my hand close to the front of my face, but seeing off into the distance, it's still a little bit murky. But I think that's part of what a switch or an update like this. Nobody knows exactly, and some of it's going to have to be handled in these email chains where there's people of different opinion, and we're going to have to adopt one and agree on it. All right, we're switching some stuff up. Instead of talking about security first, we're going to talk about AI, then we're going to talk about clouds, and then we're going to talk about security. And the reason is, I don't really know a good reason. It's my editor. My editor changed it up on us. You can blame him. There's actually some reasons, because they actually they roll up into each other, and I find it humorous. So this is the chain that we're going to go with. First off, in the AI news, we have OpenAI roadmap update for GPT 4.5 and 5. Now, when I read through this, my understanding is O3 will be gone. Now, let me be clear. ChatGPT, OpenAI, has done a terrible job of naming their product. It's super confusing. Is 4 sooner or after O1? Which one is this? And what's O stand for? And how is O3 different than 4 or 4.5? And which one came before which? Which one's the most best? Very confusing. Anyhow, this basically says they're looking to unify all of that in GPT-5, and it will be like GPT-5, GPT-6, GPT-7, blah, 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 blah. Nobody really cares, except that it seems like we will no longer ship O3 as a standalone model. Now, I don't know if they mean don't ship it now, or when ChatGPT 5 comes out, they'll stop shipping O3 as a standalone model. And you'll find why this is interesting, because this came out at the same time another particular piece of news came out, and I don't know how they correlate, but I'm sure that the other team is in the know. Hopefully. They paid a lot of money to be in the know. Sam Altman went on to release the Sam Altman blog post, which says systems are starting to point, I assume he meant starting, or systems that start to point to AGI are coming into view. Now, this is interesting. Because only a year and a half ago, Sam Altman said that their internal things were already achieving AGI. So my question is does he mean the public ones are starting, or does he mean R1? Is he saying like other people? Or is he saying that a year and a half ago maybe he lied, but now he's for sure telling the truth? I don't really know, but I am repeating the news as I find it. Moving on, we'll also see that OpenAI's ChatGPT Super Bowl commercial was created entirely by humans. And that was it for the AI. Super fast, super quick. But this ties into some stuff that we're going to talk about later in the clouds. And yeah. Did anybody... Now, I want to remind people. I want to remind people to bring your own stuff. I don't see everything. And so if you bring something, I'm happy to cover it. So make sure that if you find something, you bring it, and we can definitely cover it in these news sections, especially if it's high priority news. Yeah, high priority news. I only do high priority news. Were they were real humans creating the ad. It was created by hand, which I found interesting. Sam Altman said that the reason it was created by humans instead of anything that they had was to celebrate what humans have created. I don't know what that means, but that's cool. Now, if you guys remember in the... It was not the end of the tunnel, it was a train. Okay, so we just saw it's kind of the end of the road for the O3 line, right? And this is why I said even with their announcement, it was confusing on whether they were stop publishing O3 at all, or if they meant when ChatGPT 5 was released, they would then stop serving O3 as a standalone model. What makes that more confusing is the fact that Microsoft announced the availability of the O3 Mini reasoning model in Azure OpenAI service. This is another thing that makes me think that he meant that when back here he was saying that in both ChatGPT and our API will release 5.0 or 5 as a system that integrates a lot of technology, including 3.0. We will no longer ship O3 as a standalone model. I believe what was not clear is that they mean that they will no longer ship O3 as a standalone model when 5 was released. I find it difficult to believe that they would do this and put forth the effort for this if it was not going to be a product anymore. That's my understanding. I don't know that that's true. Microsoft should have the inside scoop. They've paid enough money to have the inside scoop. And so that is my current understanding, but that's as much information as I could get from a very confusing set of releases. That being said, in the data management realm that we've talked about, Azure Data Studio is being retired. It turns out when you name something ads, nobody likes it. Nobody likes ads, no matter whether it's a data studio platform or what we commonly think of as ads. So let this be a lesson. Don't name something that abbreviates to ads. There's other abbreviations you should avoid. If you need a full list, let me know. I will give you a breakdown of the things that you probably shouldn't abbreviate your thing to, including ads. Now, ads, if you're using it, they're really making a push for the MSSQL extension in or Visual Studio Code. They're pushing for a lot of things to go into Visual Studio Code as kind of a developer platform. Some might ask and have a quandary of when does it become a code editor and when does it become Visual Studio as a platform. It's kind of starting to breach that line for me. Why did they require ads? Well, they retired ads because I misspoke. I see retire and I say require. They retired ads because of its name for the most part. The thing is, the MSSQL extension doesn't have nearly as many features as Azure Data Studio. So hopefully they start and rush the features that are missing in the MSSQL extension, or there's another maybe not an MS, but another extension that takes over where ads left off. Let's call it Data Studio, so that it's just DS. DS, people like the DS Game Boy line. That's a fine abbreviation. People loved ads. I made a joke about its name and nobody liking it, but actually people liked ads. I don't have personal experience with it, but I do actually know people, including Russell, that like it, and people that enjoy it, or like people that use it actually really do enjoy it. So I actually think that this is actually a big hit. This is why I'm bringing it up, is because people liked it. People liked it. Scott, are you working on the abbreviation? Are you working on the abbreviations? I just, gosh dang it. I was like, what does that abbreviate to? Oh, dang it. All right. You guys keep going. Keep coming up with the abbreviations that probably shouldn't be abbreviations. Moving on. Yeah, Russell, I would love to hear your feedback on what the MSSQL, that was the recommendation. I have the two people that I know that tried it really don't like it compared to ads. So definitely give me a shout out. Like I said, I don't have ads experience. So it's difficult for me. There are a couple interesting things coming off the ground from Microsoft in the Azure space. Was the public preview of upgrade existing Azure Gen 1 VMs to Gen 2 trusted. This is actually a pretty cool thing. Originally, if you wanted to get off Gen 1 and go to Gen 2, you had to do a painful self upgrade. And they're actually building in now it's like 2 years after the Gen 2 Trusted came out, so this is well past its needed time, but it's appreciated all the same. So if you're on those Gen 1s and you want to get to Gen 2 Trusted, there is a public preview you might be able to check out eventually here soon. I would, if this is production, I would definitely wait until it's not in preview, but there you go. The other cool thing is the public preview of Azure Firewall updates. Your bring your own IP support for secured virtual hubs. So this is actually pretty cool if you're using the secured virtual hubs. I love bring your own IP. It's really, really useful for people that have their own. I know a lot of people get their IPs just through their load balancer or whatever, that AWS or whatnot, but not everybody does that. And if you don't do that, it's actually really nice to see support for BOIP. 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 It's really nice to see the BOIP support. So the last thing here was the public preview of Virtual Canary maintenance program. I have no idea what this is. I don't know why I was reporting on this. It seems cool. I don't know why we would care about MySQL. I'm scratching that. All right, the last thing was this public preview of Azure SQL updates for mid-February. Those updates are here. I'm going to leave this for you for everybody standardized test data system. Oh, gosh. All right. Improving the conversation to hyperscale with greater efficiency. Now, when I was first digging into this, I thought hyperscale was just like a keyword, but hyperscale is actually a database that they provide. So you can, they have improvements to the Azure SQL database conversion process to hyperscale. So this is actually a product that they have. And I guess they brought in a lot of improvements to the crossover time. So if you've been in Azure SQL database and really want to transfer to hyperscale, there's some notable performances updates. So shorter cutover times. I don't know how long it used to be, but it's shorter, which is cool. Support for higher log generation rate. I guess originally the throughput while you're doing the conversion was a lot smaller, and it's now it went from 8 to 50 megabits per second, which is actually a whole lot longer, or a whole lot more data, a whole lot faster. They're also added a 72-hour time window to do a manual cutover. This gives you a chance to basically bail out if something doesn't go right, which is cool, and more granular reporting, which is pretty awesome in the grand scheme of things. So go out there, get hyperscaled, and take that scaling with a grain of salt because it's more granular. I'm not going to come up with sayings anymore on the fly. GCP really only released one thing. SQL is great, but not perfect. I didn't watch this video ahead of time because I was like, let's watch it together. What's better than to get the news together? Because that's what we do. It's a quick video. We'll watch it fast.
Hey everybody. If you've ever worked with data, you've probably heard of SQL. It's a powerful language, but sometimes it gets a bit tricky to read and write. Well, today we're diving into BigQuery's new pipe syntax. And trust me, it's going to make your life writing and understanding SQL a whole lot easier. Now, SQL has been a standard for decades, but it's got a very rigid structure, which makes it difficult to write and debug complex queries. For example, if I misorder any of these clauses...
Wrong. ChatGPT made SQL-like query generation so much... Okay, I don't know that I've done this with you all. We need to make a video on this. I actually do like ChatGPT for complex queries generations. Okay, I really do because, yeah, anyways.
I'm probably going to get an error.
Okay, but this is also true about your code. For
example, if I misorder any of these clauses, I'm probably going to...
If you misorder any of your if statements, you're probably going to get an error too. I don't like arguments like this because they apply to a lot of things. But he's not wrong. That will cause you issues if you select. Yeah, I mean, if you're bad at writing SQL queries, it's true.
To get an error. BigQuery's new pipe syntax extends Google SQL and removes a lot of these limitations. It also mirrors.
You can write it in any order. That's fantastic.
How we might naturally think about data access. For example, you might begin with a from clause to define your table, apply an aggregation, and then select the fields you're interested in. Most Google SQL operators.
Oh, do we have the best viewers? Oh, we do have the best viewers. This person, like, watched the show before setting up a bot. Fantastic. Fantastic. I've always demanded the best viewers.
Operators have a pipe equivalent, and they're usually the same operators you're already used to. Even better, you can chain them together in any order you'd like and eliminate the need for messy CTEs or subqueries. Plus, pipe syntax interoperates with Google SQL, so you can fit it easily into your existing code without the need to rewrite everything.
Okay, I don't know if this happens to other people. I don't know if this happens to other people, but I find this to be true for me. When people are like, you can do it in any order like this, then I'm like, well, which one actually happens first? Because when you tell me any order, it means that you order it somehow, right? Right? Like, these have to happen. Somehow. Or is it like this where statement applies to this from statement no matter where it is? And then in that case, did you really save us from much? Because that doesn't mean, like, and see here, they're nesting it. So does that mean it still has to be like mathematically in the, I don't know.
Code without the need to rewrite everything. Okay, enough talk. Let's jump over to BigQuery and see this in action.
I want to see.
Let's imagine that I'm looking for a new television show to watch, and I happen to have television rating data in the IMDb public data set. So let's query it using pipe syntax. You'll notice intuitively that the query begins with a from clause to specify the table I'm interested in. I can add additional pipe operators beneath to filter to TV series that are dramas that started after 2010.
From is not a pipe operator. Good.
And then select only the fields I'm interested in. I could continue to add pipe operators in any order, any number of times.
How does he do a join, though?
But we get some dramas down below.
I want to see joins.
And now I want to find the highest rated ones, which means I need to join to the ratings table. So let's do that. We'll join to the ratings table, and within the ratings table, I'll filter to records that have a high average rating and a high number of votes. I'll also order by average rating and then select the field I'm interested in.
Now, can he rearrange all of these? That's what I'm assuming is true. But, I mean, that's cool. I actually like this. This is cool because while still you're going to have some stuff, it's going to figure this out. The only thing I have to do, I do have some questions, but this is cool.
When I run the query, I get some great shows that I could check out. If we compare this pipe syntax query to one using standard syntax, we can quickly see that the joins are more verbose with standard. We need to also co-locate all of the where clauses to avoid subqueries, right? You can imagine how much more complicated this could get if I join 3, 4, or 5 tables. Lastly,
I was going to say also, they didn't stipulate here whether this was like inner join or whatnot. Which is interesting. Interesting. It's just a straight join. Is this a one-to-one? I'd have to test on this, right? Because is this a one-to-one? This one inner joins. This one just joins. How does it know what type of join to do, whether it's an inner or outer join?
Lastly, I can use standard and pipe syntax in the same query. In this example, we start with some standard syntax, and we also have pipe syntax below. We could run this and get the same result as we did just a second ago. And this interoperability means that if I want to embed some pipe syntax into my existing BigQuery workflows, I don't need to rewrite everything. I can just plug it in wherever it fits. Apart from exploratory analysis, pipe syntax is great for log analytics. So let's check that out. I've opened Cloud Log Analytics in the console, where I can query my log data in view or chart the results. Behind the scenes, this is powered by BigQuery. And I'll paste in a standard SQL query that looks through all of my App Engine logs for client IPs with a lot of 503 errors. But you'll see how verbose the standard syntax is. We have a common table expression. We repeat the same fields and functions several times. Well, I can simplify this using pipe syntax, where we define the table we're pulling from, filter it down with a where clause, create an aggregate, and then filter it a little bit.
Okay, this actually is cool. I was misunderstanding. Because if you can somehow, it's keeping all of this. Now, I say somehow because part of me thinks it must be making assumptions. How intelligently it makes those assumptions or decisions, that's the interesting thing. Because I feel like there's going to be some getting to understand, like when you say join, what is it going to do? How is it going to join? Again, here with this, like when you select these things, how does it know what to track and where?
Where we define the table we're pulling from, filter it down with a where clause, create an aggregate, and then filter it a little bit more. And when I run this, we'll get our results. But you can see how much simpler pipe syntax is compared to the alternative. Now, since I've set up a linked data set in BigQuery, I can query it over there too. So let's hop over to BigQuery. And now that we're in BigQuery, I'll paste the exact same query. All I need to do is update the from clause, because now we're pulling from a linked data set. Again, anywhere that we can run standard syntax, we can also use pipe syntax, like linked datasets, views, table value functions, and more. All other syntax remains exactly the same.
I'd have to play around with it. That actually seems pretty cool. I was skeptical at first. I was skeptical at the first startup when he said this right here. But it actually sounds kind of cool because it's more than just you switch the ordering. It's more than that. I think that this actually did a bad job of selling itself because what it appears to be is basically a rethinking of how SQL-like queries or SQL queries are done. This is actually pretty cool, and I wish that it was open source. That would make it actually really cool. Like, could we make this a part of query engines? I would like that. I would like that very much. Anyways, that was really the only thing I saw from Google. I need to play around with this, and I wish that there was more people that use GCP to give me their thoughts on it. I don't fully understand it, but it looks awesome. It looks awesome. Okay. Moving on. Moving on to AWS. This is a problem I've run into myself before. And it's been a pain. It's been a pain. Google also wishes there were more people who use GCP. I didn't mean that to be such a flame. If you want to say like Azure and AWS, I can name like 50 people, 100 people that I know that use both of those. And that's like GCP, and I'm like, I know two. I literally know two people. And then do they use that feature will be the next thing. And it's like, if they don't. All right. Anyways. I know the two. I'm a pretty influential person. Yeah. I know all two people that are using it. All right. This is something that has actually bit me in the derriere twice prior. Yeah. All right. AWS network load balancers now support removing availability zones. You think this would have been in the feature set before now? How long have they had NLBs? Like, for a freaking long time. But prior to this launch, customers could add availability zones to NLBs, but they could not remove availability zones. You had to recreate them. Yeah. And then you had to handle having a new NLB. It really was not the optimal solution. And this actually went one way that we handled this was by just having a dead availability zone, which is dumb and stupid because fixing it is a lot of work. So anyways, I'm actually super excited about this. I don't think a lot of people are going to have this as a big deal. I found this to be a big deal because if the problem strikes you, the problem strikes hard. Amazon Polly launches a new voice in Singaporean English. That's just what we needed. Just what we needed. I don't know why I covered that in the news. I apologize to all of you. I apologize. Russell, have you had to do it before? It's been a pain. It's been a pain. First time chatter, welcome. Should you learn NeoVim in 2025? I think yes. Look, I learned it in 2024. I'm still learning it. I'm still a noob because I only get to practice it a few times a week at best. Sometimes it's like once a week. I think you should. I actually think that despite some of its negatives, it's the fastest way to edit code. If you have FOMO, you don't need to have FOMO. Now, I will say, you don't need to. There's nothing that you need. You can use, I've actually really started to like Cursor as well as Zen. Zen is probably my favorite. Cursor's second favorite. And VS Code's third favorite. I've actually really started to really like those. There is something really nice about knowing Vim really well, especially if you're in the industry. There's a lot of times you're across a terminal, and Vim or VI are the only tools that you have at your disposal. Super, super powerful. Super powerful when you actually learn to do it. Do you need to? No. There's no FOMO about it. It is just... did I say Zen? I said Zen. I meant Zed. I meant Zed. I apologize. I did mean Zed. I've been using the Zen browser, and I apologize, but this is Zed for all of those that this is Zed. I do like it though. I do like it a lot. It's probably my favorite IDE. I'm looking forward to the Zed browser getting the AI of Cursor. As soon as they're up to snuff on that, there will be no reason for Cursor. Like the Zed editor is just way better. What about Helix then? I mean, if you'd like to learn Helix, go for it. I think Helix is probably my understanding, and I don't know Helix. And you guys are getting me on a tangent. I got to cover the news because I got to get back to work. I only have an hour for lunch, and I'd like to get back. Or I need to get back to work because I need to stay gainfully employed. But the one thing I have to say about Helix is my understanding is that the motions, I'm going to say Vim motions, but the motions, the Helix motions, are better designed for coding. That's my understanding. I don't have experience with it. That's my understanding. The one thing we did do is we experimented opening really, really large files, and Helix destroyed that way better than NeoVim did. NeoVim was much slower, but we're talking gigabyte files. Okay. The other thing is Helix is a little less on the plugin. There's a lot more plugins for other, for like NeoVim. But if you want to, go for it. I think having a really good terminal editor that you're really comfortable with is a good thing. I do need the money to buy new capture cards. At this point, I've been buying about a new one a year. And this year I'll buy two because my backup died and my main one died. So there's $300. So because I got to go buy another backup because that's what you do. All right, we're getting back to this. You think Helix is the easiest to get up and running? I haven't used it. Like I said, I haven't used it. Let's talk a little bit about security. Malicious ML models on Hugging Face leverage broken pickle format to evade detection. If you guys don't know the pickle format is apples take on configuration as a language. I actually kind of like the pickle format, but it is here to evade detection. I don't know why I'm talking like that. Be careful of what you use of other people's. I mean, like, this is know your supply chain. It's really important, and it can be hard because there's so many things out there and you just want to consume them as fast as possible to do the thing that you're trying to do. This goes with GitHub Actions. This is why, corporations don't let you use just whatever GitHub action you want to use. This is why there's these things in place. It's important to know and understand. Hugging Face isn't any different. You don't need any language to learn an editor. Pick your favorite language and use that language. Fortinet discloses a second authentication bypass vulnerability. Does anybody use Fortinet anymore? This is a constant stream. I could just have a news channel on Fortinet security disclosures. Plugin development is in Lua, I think. I think it's in Lua. Moving on. No, do not sign me up. Get rid of you. Valve recommends a full PC reset after malware-infected game discovered on Steam. Have fun with that. I think it was PirateFi. Created by any developer, which is a huge red flag. PirateFi was a generic server. I think it was this PirateFly. I am also safe. But if you downloaded PirateFi, run your antivirus and restart your PC. And then, uninstall first. Uninstall. Quick. Uninstall it quick. All right, let's talk about some open source. We have some pretty cool things to talk about in open source. We're going to go from coolest to least coolest. Actually, we're going to go from most terrifying, then to coolest, then to drool in the open source world. All right. So have you ever thought, I just wish I could run some code in my CSS? I know this is a thought that has crossed my mind hundreds, if not thousands of times, maybe millions of times. I say this to say, I don't know that it's a good thing. But CSS custom functions are coming. And they're going to be a game changer. Whether it's a good game changer or a bad game changer, we don't know. But it looks cool. I'm terrified, but it looks cool. I understand. CSS was not a programming language. It wasn't. 2025 is the year of the CSS programming languages. Now, instead of needing to write messy JavaScript, you can write your entire application in CSS. In fact, we're working on React CSS to make CSS a first-class citizen of the React framework. You can now just write everything in CSS. This gets rid of the need for Tailwind because everything is in CSS. And we're going to live the high life. It's going to be fantastic. And thank you so much for the follow. Surely that will never be absurd. Exactly. Exactly, first time chatter. You understand why this will not get abused. It won't be abused at all. We won't do horrible things with it. I am planning on doing horrible things with it and making a YouTube video about the horrible things that I've done. That's how it goes. This is like cannon fodder for a YouTuber. We will be doing horrible things with it. Let's move on to something I'm actually excited about. Open source distributed container management for platform engineering at scale. We all like to pretend that we're at scale, and so we use the tools of people who actually scale. That being said, Cordant primary use case is to bring you that scale to your microservice architecture that you use because you want to be like Google. So Cordant's primary use case is modern workloads. You all want to be modern, don't you? You want to have I almost said compostable templates. You want to be able to compost those back into the ether. And you want to be large scale platforms because being small scale sucks. Now, I am actually interested in Cordant. I'm making a little bit of fun about them, but I am actually interested in those people that have the use case. I do warn people that not everybody has the scale that some people do. But when you have that scale, a nice Apache 2 license, it is actually open source. It's pretty cool. So if you work on IDPs, your internal developer platforms, and work on platform engineering, and you're wanting to manage Kubernetes clusters on the cloud, on premise, or across hybrid environments, Cordant seems to be the tool for you. I actually have an interest in looking in this myself. I'm probably going to stream it one of these evenings if I get the time. There is going to be a Monday stream. It's President's Day. I get the day off. And we're actually going to do some Kubernetes related stuff on Monday. So be aware of that. And yeah, anyways, I'm kind of interested in it. Let me know if you guys are as well. We'll do a stream on it and we'll make it work. Dagger, everybody's favorite go-to thing. I'm still a little confused as to what Dagger does exactly, but they replaced their React frontend with Go and WebAssembly. This is actually really cool. I had never known of a full platform, a full-fledged thing that used WebAssembly to deliver their front end. I guess Flutter uses Dart, right? Flutter doesn't do this, right? It's not using Wasm in the back end. So this is actually really cool. And I was just going to put it here for you all. So you could check it out if you want to see their experience using Wasm and Go to build their front end. One of the things that basically they were saying was they were a lot of Go devs, and doing the React front end always seemed to slow them down, make them release fewer features and things like that. And so they changed it to be a Wasm app that allowed them to write their entire stack in Go, which made them able to move faster and whatnot. So I think it's really cool, and you should go check it out. Talking about WebAssembly and Go, that brings us to Docker Bake. Now, I don't have a personal investment in this. I also don't use Docker Desktop, which I think it's kind of a shame that it's in Docker Desktop, because that means us Linux people that don't pay for Docker don't get it in the CLI, which kind of sucks. But if you're using Docker Desktop and paying for it, Docker Bake is an orchestration tool that streamlines Docker builds. So it's kind of like hand in hand with Compose. Compose is like running those environments, and Bake is how you build multiple step things for Compose. It's supposed to make that a bit easier. Yeah. So yeah, Teams often need to build multiple images and execute helper tasks like testing, linting, and code generation. So yeah, I think it could be a great benefit there if you're using Docker Desktop. It is written in Go. That's kind of why I segued into this, is it's written in Go. Reflex. They made React, but Python. I'll have to check it out. I don't really do Python much. In fact, I have this for talking about Python. I can beep it out. Yeah. All right. Let's move on. We're talking Kubernetes. We're talking containers. Let's talk about something that should get you excited. Canonical has been a huge pusher of long-term support. And they have just brought 12 years of Kubernetes LTS. 12 years. Starting with Kubernetes 132, you get 12 years. That is a long time for Kubernetes. That is like all of Kubernetes. That is longer, right? That is longer than Kubernetes has been around. It was 2014 was the original release of non-beta, 2014 or 2015. I think it was 2014. So that is longer than Kubernetes has been around. You know how much has changed in that time? I actually kind of think this is ridiculous. I think this is ridiculous. They shouldn't have done 12 years. Oh my goodness. I want to see 132 in 12 years. This is really cool though, if you're a business that wants to run on a particular version for a long period of time. You probably don't want to sit there for 12 years. I think this is a bad plan. If you design something to not be updated, you can get into ruts where it's hard to update. When you get into the rut of you're already updating a lot, it's actually a little bit easier to update because you go through those paces more often. If you have to go and update in 12 years, oh my goodness, there's your year. There's your year. FedRAMP. Does FedRAMP force 12 years? I honestly don't know off the top of my head. I don't think it does. Maybe it does? Maybe it does. I didn't think it does. Huh. Should I continue to code in WSL or code in direct Windows? I always use WSL because I'm a hipster. Maybe FedRAMP does support or require 12 years. Does it require it on a single version? I didn't think it was a single version, but maybe it does. Maybe it does. And the last thing, Passmark sees the first year drop in average CPU performance in its 20 years of benchmark results. I have to say, kudos to you, Intel, for bringing us the worst year ever. Literally, if you guys don't remember, a couple weeks ago, AMD said the reason it was sold out was because Intel released such a terrible product. And we see that now. We literally see that now. All right. Now we have this thing going on to review incident reports. And I'm going to call out one group that is receiving an F-. I didn't even know an F- was possible until this last week. I have been following Sony's outage. It was a whole day, or it was a little over a whole day. They received an F- because they literally haven't had a outage report. They didn't say what caused it. They didn't say what went wrong in their 28-hour something outage, complete outage. And it's scrubbed from their history. There is no history. I could not find a history of it. I couldn't find an update on it. I couldn't find anything in their blog. It is gone. Okay. Just so you know, it happened. That being said, Proton is getting their B- rating bumped down to a C+. Pretty good, but their final thing was like, there's still open questions, and that will be in a deeper analysis in their post-mortem. They've never released it. They have not released it. And this was January 9th. It's been over a month. We deserve that report, and I'm holding you accountable for that. Your report went from B- to now a C+. Okay? Maybe PSN offered Pirate Pi. Or Pirate Pi was running on the PSN network. Oh gosh. Okay. So let's talk about what an A report looks like. Cloudflare incident on February 6th. Now, there was continuous updates during that, but we're not going to step through that because on February, February 7th? I think it was the day after the February 6th outage, they released this. If you want to get an A+ on your report, you do this. And I know this meant that there was several engineers' days who were garbage and they spent a lot of time, and it happens. But this gets you an A+. This is a company you can build an API against and expect for stuff. This is good. This is how you should do it. Multiple Cloudflare services, including the R2 object storage, were unavailable for a whole hour. They say 59 minutes. They didn't want to say an hour. They said 59 minutes, which was probably exactly true if you go look through the logs. This caused all operations against R2 to fail for the duration of the incident and caused a number of other Cloudflare services that depended on R2, to suffer significant failures. Now, one thing cool, you get to see a little bit of their infrastructure. These things use R2, which is really cool. Dogfooding, they use internal products that they build, and the other teams use that to build their products because they build products that they can depend on and leverage. Really awesome. The incident occurred due to human error and insignificant validation safeguards during a routine abuse remediation for a report about a phishing site hosted on R2. The action taken on the complaint resulted in an advanced product disablement action on the site that led to disabling the production R2 gateway service responsible for the R2 API. Another really cool tidbit that you get to learn, and I love reading these and learning from this. They use the public API for R2. They were degraded, and the thing that happened was the R2 gateway. They're not using some secret service that makes it better for them. They're literally using what everybody else uses to build their services. This is really cool. And it means that they themselves depend on R2 because guess what? Cache reserve, vectorization, stream, and images probably all provide an SLA or SLO, and they have to take into account the thing that they use, which was R2 object storage. All right, critically, no loss of data, blah, blah, blah. We're deeply sorry for this incident. Very important, PlayStation. When you have something, just apologize for it. It was a failure of controls. This has happened. This actually famously happened in 2016 to AWS. If you guys remember when US East 1 went dark for a number of hours and basically took down the internet with it. And this was just a failure of controls. They ran an admin script, accidentally added an extra 0, and restarted a bunch of machines all at once and took everything down. Okay, so we can go through this, But this goes through a timeline really, really well. It was very quick on the impact and follow-up. We don't need to go through it. Very nice. And actually, if you look at the active incident report, they have like every 10 minutes, they have a status update. And they went through the impact and they listed the impact on every single service from this. So 100% of operations failed, 100% of operations failed, 100%. Don't cover it up. Don't shy away. I believe we had, it wasn't in the Proton one. There was one that kind of glossed over the actual impact. You state the impact. This is trust that you're building with people. The Proton one was also very good about stating exactly what happened. It's bad. They're not sugarcoating it. 100% of operations failed. Log delivery was delayed during the primary incident, resulting in significant delays, up to an hour of log processing, as well as some dropped logs. There you go. Objects increased. Vectorization, 75% of queries to index failed. 100% of insert, upsert, and delete operations failed. We can go in. Here's the timeline. They go into their detailed timeline. Like I said, every few minutes. Okay. You can see here from first signs at 8:15, an incident was detected in 10 minutes. That's actually pretty good. You'll be like, oh, it took 10 minutes. Sometimes these things can be hard to detect, especially when like there's always going to be some errors. And so where's that rate of errors that actually puts it up to that? So R2 on call was unable to identify. Beautiful. They called out that they weren't able to identify the root cause. And escalated for assistance. It's okay. The on-call couldn't actually recreate the gateway. Finally, they get the gateway re-triggered, which takes a little bit longer than I'm sure that they had desired for this. Like right here, they were like, we're going to just re-enable this and we're going to take care of it. And then, that failed. And as it does. And impact ends at 9:13, just under an hour. So R2 available recovers within its service level objectives. Durable object begin to observe a slight increase in error rate and durable objects running. Done. All right. But you think, this is where it ends. This is not where it ends. This is why they get an A+. All right. Check it out. All right, I'm going to give you guys this link. We're about halfway through. Their report. And mind you, this report came out a day later. So they go in. Why did it take them 10 minutes to discover? Why is this 10 minutes here? And that's because, well, there's a delay about 2 minutes before the actual disablement happens. So like the command was issued, but it takes a little while to happen. As well as metrics aggregation, like aggregating all the metrics, you can see that there's a curve. This was probably a sharp drop off, but you aggregate metrics in windows. And so those windows always have a rolling off time. Okay. So there they go. They actually go into, for context, R2 architecture stipulates the gateway service, which is responsible for authenticating and serving requests to R2's S3 REST APIs and is the front door. Front door for R2. This metadata store built on durable objects are intermediate caches and the underlying distributed data subsystem responsible for durably storing objects. So they kind of go into their thing here. This is their gateway. This is the thing that got destroyed. And these are the things sitting behind that production gateway. All other components of R2 remained up. So this metadata cache, read cache, all of these stayed up, which is why when the gateway was deployed, everything was back instantly. You get this instant snap of everything being back because nothing beyond this was down. And anything that had received a 200 response was good. They didn't lose any information because all of this was good. So they deep dive into the human error. If you want to know, I pushed the link into the thing so you guys can go. It's actually a really great deep dive. This is what makes them, you know, S tier as far as it goes. This is what makes a really good thing. Like if you want to be at the top when you have an incident and you want to build that trust with people, this is the type of crap that I look for when I'm talking to a vendor. When I talk to a vendor, I actually go and look at their incident reports. 100%. I Google that crap, I look for it, and I see how they handle it. Because this is how, you know, how they deal with it, how they handle them, and it makes a big deal. It's a huge difference between companies that do it well and companies that don't do it well. Now, there was one last thing, but I've got to go because I've got a job to do and my lunch break is ending. There was two things we're going to cover next week when I get the chance. When Rust Arc is not enough. And then what is Fudge? I don't know how to pronounce. Fajal. I'm assuming it's in a mountain. I have no idea what language. I don't know if is it Jal? Is it Hal? Is it Fajal? I don't know. We're going to just move on. But this is actually a really cool project. And I didn't know it existed. I didn't know it existed until I was reading this. And then I was like, what the crap is this? They're basically doing the same thing I'm doing with a database. But they're using LSM trees. And so we're definitely going to do a deep dive through how they did LSM trees. Like I said, I was less familiar on how LSM trees worked. And we have an example of an embeddable server that does LSM trees. So I'm actually like super excited about this. This is actually really, really cool. An LSM-based embeddable key value storage engine written in safe Rust. This is like super cool. I was super excited about it. I'm like, cool. So, anyhow, we will be covering that. Thank you everybody for joining me for the news. I enjoyed having you all here. Fial, maybe. I stream during lunch? Absolutely. This is my lunch break. Absolutely. That's all, y'all. That's all, y'all. All right. Anyways, be back tomorrow. I'm gonna stream tomorrow. We're still doing the kerflop, the kerflop protocol. We're building an entire system to get a job. Just teasing. I'm not looking for a job. Anyways, we should have fun with that. And I will see you all next week. Thanks all for joining for the news. I hope it covered what you wanted. If there's anything I missed, remember to leave it in the comments or join the Discord and leave me those things. We don't have an AI web scraper yet that is helping me collect articles. So if you see articles during the week, please put them in the Discord for me and make sure that I touch base on them on your behalf. All right. Thanks, everybody. And I will see you tomorrow. And